Let's do it like this now. Don't do it proper.
Now that was a beautiful process of how things are made. Talking about the starch dresses or materials that we tend to get, African print, amazing. Made by a very young, beautiful entrepreneur out there. So this is something that, of course, is called tie and dye for everyone that has one way or another, seen that art, artistry happening in maybe high school or even along their areas. So tie and dye is a timeless craft, combines artistry and technique to create vibrant patterns on fabrics. So rooted in ancient traditions, yet continually evolving. The tie and dye has inspired generations with the versatility and creativity. So now we're going to explore the origins, the techniques, and contemporary applications of tie and dye, shed a light on its enduring appeal and the myriad ways it continues to captivate artisans and enthusiasts worldwide. So we are joined by a fashion designer and a tie and dye artist, Hauwa Ishaq Ibrahim, who is, of course, joining us via Zoom to dissect the art of what she is doing. Good morning, Hauwa. It's good to have you.
Good morning, Sumaya, and thank you for having me.
Of course, it's good to have you. So let's talk about tie and dye. I mean, I've seen your videos and it's really amazing. I even saw you wearing one. So let's start from how it started. In this generation where, youths are more concerned about the white collar job, what made you pick tie and dye as, a career?
Okay, so for me, business started long before tie and dye, long before I started the tie and dye. And it started as a result of a word or a statement that was made to me because I have a little bit of disability. And then someone told me that there's this chance that I'll be a liability to people around me. So just because I needed to prove that, like I needed to prove to that person that no, I don't have that mind to be that kind of person. So I ventured into business. And then luckily for me, one day I came in contact, or there was an incident that happened. I think 2018, 19. I was supposed to wear an Ankara fabric to go out. And then luckily, fortunately or unfortunately, NEPA took light, so there was no light for me to iron the Ankara dress. I had to go with something else. And that day, I got to find out that the keke that I stopped to go to wherever I was going to was actually using the same Ankara fabric as a seat cover. And I was so pissed. I was happy at the same time that NEPA did not bring light. Like that was one day that I was so glad and happy that NEPA did not bring light that day. Because if I had ironed the dress, probably I'll be doing ashwebi, how do they call it? Yes, wearing the same thing as a tricycle seat cover. Yeah. So that made me started thinking of how can one get something unique to wear? Because I'm very sure there are people like me that don't want to wear something that is so rampant in the society. And that was when tie and dye came into me. And I found it, I fell in love with it, and I started it. I started by doing it on a very, very low scale. Today, I can say is on a large scale that we have our own production center in Kano.
That is amazing. That is beautiful. I mean, it's always good, when someone pushes you to do things, even though perhaps it might not be that that was their intention. But then let's talk about your designs. I mean, they look beautiful and you make it look effortless. or while doing it based on your videos. How do you, or where do you get your inspiration from when it comes to the designs and pattern that you do? Because creating on a regular basis, and then sometimes you do not even replicate the same design. How do you come up with all of that? Do you use the current trends, or the traditional design?
I mix both. I use the current trends. I do the traditional. Mix the traditional and current trends together. Sometimes I go online. I see other designs. I see what suits me. Like I see other designs that have been done by other artists, and I'm like, okay, how can I recreate this but in a different way? Like I look at my customer base, because most of my customer base are within the generation of millennials and Gen Zs. I look at my customer base. I try to make research on things that suit these two generations: the colors, the artwork, the patterns. I look at my environment also, and I look at what they are used to wearing. People in Kano, Abuja, and all that, they really don't like this flashy, too much big patterns designs, and that keeps inspiring me. That's one of the ways I get inspiration. And then sometimes I just go sit down in a very quiet environment and I draw patterns. Sometimes I don't even know what I'm drawing, but it turns out to be something good later on.
I mean, I can imagine. Speaking of turning out to be something good, art, the act of doing tie and dye is another artistry kind of form, and it always comes with thoughts. So, is there any story behind, a particular design that you do that when I pick it up, I'll look at it and say, this was what Hauwa was thinking while painting this.
Okay, yes, I think there are two designs I've ever made. And I kept it for myself because it was so personal. And then the second, I sold it. And I like selling it. Then I had to be very careful about who to sell it, like people, because sometimes even when we make fabrics, we know that there are some art or design that are not going to be appreciated by everyone. There's this design I made. It's not here, but I would have loved to share it though. I made it after a mistake. It was a mistake at the beginning, that's initially, but later I had to just tweak it. And I was like, no, my mistakes cannot define me, cannot limit me. Should not be something that would be like, oh, that's it, that's the end because I made this mistake and that's the end of it. So I turned it into something, and it was a masterpiece. After making a dress from it, I started having orders about it, and in my mind I was like, can I even remember what I did?
Interesting. I mean, now you've made me curious. I want to get a sneak peek of, that design in particular. But then walk us through the process of tie and dye. Everyone sees it. Yes, the video are telling us a bit of story, but definitely not the entire story. So walk us through the process, the technique.
Okay. Tie and dye is of two types. There's the tie and dye, and there's the batik. The tie and dye is the ones you tie and then you dye them. You tie your patterns and you dye them. Then there's the batik, in which we use stamps in form of maybe foams or wooden stamps to create, like we design the pattern on the stamps and then use a wax as blocker to bring out the patterns before we dye the fabrics. So for example, if you're making a tie and dye, you wash your fabric off company starch or whatever starch is on the fabric initially. And then when you're done, you create your patterns. Either there's the marble pattern, there's the knotting pattern, there's the spiral pattern, there's the web, there's the spiral pattern, there's also the web pattern, there's the crack. There are a lot of patterns. It just depends on how your hands work and what you have in mind. Then you mix your dyes, your chemicals, like the dyes and chemicals together. You mix everything. and you would work up your colors the way you want it to come out on the pattern. For example, you're doing a marble pattern. There's a video that is showing something on the table. That's the marble pattern. You just spread your colors the way you want the colors to come out on the marbled fabric. That is for tie and dye. While the batik is done in the sense that you would wash your fabric, let it dry, because you don't work on wet fabrics when it comes to batik. You work on dry fabric. So when it's dry, you get your wax, you get your Egyptian wax, then you use your stamps to block the wax. Blocking the wax doesn't mean that it works this way. The way the stamps takes the wax and place it on the fabric. So those places that your fabric is blocked with that wax is where your underneath color of fabric will come out, and then would now make it look like the pattern that you have transferred with the stamps. So the places that you did not cover is where the dye you are going to use to dye the fabric would come out, and then you just see this, voila, like the video where we were washing this green fabric with initials KDJ. That is an example of batik, because we use the green dye to dye the fabric. Now, those wax that we use to block the fabric is the KDJ, that white KDJ that came out. So that's how it works.
I mean, well, let's talk about consistency. You went all technical on me, and I think you lost me somewhere. But this is something that honestly I cannot even wait to get into the process with you. Just stay in there while I watch you do what you do. But then let's talk about the consistency. I mean, there was one videos where you spread out this and you were using, I think it looks like a cup to make patterns
that is
on the dress. Exactly.
Yes.
So how are you able to keep up the consistency, considering how random tie and dye can be?
It is not easy, I can tell you that, because sometimes you wonder, okay, what is going to happen if you bring out these designs? How are you going to keep up with the whole trends, with where there are different thousands of suppliers everywhere for tie and dye? But I believe consistency is all about how you look at what you do. For me, it's not just about tie and dye. For me, it's a lifestyle. For me, I love what I do, and I feel complete and whole, because when I'm working on these designs, it gives me the passion. It fills up my passion cup of what I do. So that's what keeps the consistency for me. Because if you want to look at the fact that, oh, there are a lot of people doing this thing, how do I keep up? You will never be able to go further.
Indeed.
But what I do, I block every other thing. For me, I am the best tie and dye artist you can ever meet. For me, I am the only producer in Kano. So whatever it is, or in Abuja, whatever it is, please, everybody should just go to the side and let me have my own feel. And that is what has been keeping up with my consistency, because if not, that's what has kept me on the line, keep going.
Yeah.
And yeah.
All right. I mean, one of the things that I wanted to also point out, in one of the video also, there was you doing I think if it was Elroy handwriting, and you were writing it.
Yes.
I was looking at it, some of it almost all look the same, and I got curious, how are you able to keep up with, you started the design from this part and you have to carry the same way without it changing, without making any mistake all through the entire wrapper? How are you able to keep that up?
That's why when I say tie and dye, or it's more than what you see. People don't understand, but when you get in depth into it, you understand. Now, for example, when we're doing work like that, we can actually spend the whole day writing that design or drawing that design with a pencil.
Interesting.
Yes. we can do that. Sit down, we draw it, we finish creating how we want the design to look like with the pencil, and then we go back, take the stamp, start following, start tracing exactly how we want it to come out. And sometimes, for me, I have been in this business for over 3-4 years. So sometimes I don't need the pencil. I just do it because, when you're used to something, you always find yourself finding it easy and doing it effortlessly. So I just write it. I know that, okay, I want the design to go from right to left or from left to right. I want it to come out this way and I want it to, I just keep up, I do. And it turns out amazing. And one sweet thing about tie and dye is there is no mistake. There is always no mistake. Like, your mistake can actually turn out to be the best design you do. So even when it's maybe your E gets crooked, you just turn out to, it turns out to be like, the next person that wants to buy it will now be telling you, I want the E to be crooked. And you'll be like, I can't remember.
I can imagine.
That's the beauty of it.
Art tends to give you
Yeah.
that leverage where you can still play around even with mistakes. But then with all of this, you painted a good picture. Is there any challenge when it comes to tie and dye business?
Oh yes, there are numerous challenges. Now, the first challenge I faced when I started this production in depth was the fact that there were no pure cotton materials, especially in the north. It's either you have to go to Aba or Abeokuta to get pure cotton materials because they were used to tie and dye long before now. They have been in the business for a very long time. It has been their way of life, you understand? So they, even when suppliers of pure cotton, they tend to give more emphasis to those people at that side. While the north are used to Ankara's normal plain material, so you find it very difficult to get the kind of pure cotton you want. And if you don't get a good cotton, once you use it on dye, you always have problems. It's either it doesn't come out well, it's either it spoils the whole design. Sometimes it gets so bad that once you're washing it off, the dye is just going. And when you are done washing, you just see plain material the same way it has been right from the start. So those are challenges. This is one big challenge that it cost me a lot, thousands of nairas before I was able to find a solution to it. But alhamdulillah, I think we have been able to partner with a textile company in Kano that produces cotton from cotton farmers in Katsina. And we have been working with them, and that has relieved us a little bit of the stress. There's also sometimes when you make production, it's not every color that goes for everybody. You have to start, it gets difficult. At some point it gets so difficult that you don't even know what to do, because you may make a lot of purple at US tie and dyes, and then you just get to see that it doesn't really move. The green that you just made for 2-3 pieces is what people are looking for. And you still have to sell that purple in order to get your money back so that you can continue production. These are one of the few challenges that we face. It has not been easy, but yeah, we're going.
Indeed. All right, let's talk about the business aspect. How has, tie and dye business been for you? Would you say it's been fruitful so far?
Yes, it has been. One thing about handwork, craftsmanship is there's a special blessing to it because it gives you control, or let me say, it gives you total control of what you produce. And when you have total control of what you produce in your business, it gives you a lot of leverage. Leverage as in, it gives you a kind of monopoly towards what you sell out to your consumers. And because of that, you get to see that a lot of deals, a lot of things come to you because they know that, oh, in this whole place, this is the one person I can get it from. So it has been fruitful. I've enjoyed the fact that I went into tie and dye. I think it's one of the best decisions I've made in my whole business years.
That is really amazing. I mean, would you tie it down, the success, of course, of this business to the resurgence of, the interest of tie and dye? Because you agree with me that, say, about 20 years ago, people started leaning more to the Western culture. But then all of a sudden, the interest on tie and dye came back, and even the Northerners who are not really known for tie and dye are now wearing it. Would you agree with that? Oh,
Yes, I would. That has, like, one thing I know, and I always tell people, is that one, tie and dye is something that is timeless. It never goes out of contest. It just happens. It just have to be how you style it, how you wear it, how you portray it. Even you as the producer or you as the seller, how you bring it out to people. And then with the fact that a lot of things, when you talk about things that come from the West, have been very expensive. Not everybody can afford it. People are leaning towards sustainable fashion, affordability, and all that. And this is what tie and dye is. Tie and dye is sustainable. Is a very um, beautiful and sustainable fashion. It's it's something that will never go in, never ever stop being in vogue. It just have to be
Do you see yourself
how the
exploring
design comes
to,
out.
outside the country?
Pardon, I didn't get that.
Yeah, do you see yourself exploring, reaching out, exporting what you do outside the country?
Of course, yes, I do. Um, our designs, one thing with African designs is it fits anywhere. It fits all over the globe because of the diversity of colors, the beauty, the artwork that goes in African designs, especially when it comes to tie and dye. And I see myself exploring. I see myself in the next 2 years being a very strong chain of supplier of our African fabrics, that's the textiles we produce, tie and dye, to outside Nigeria. I
So
see myself in that space.
that is great. But I have to ask you this, Krista, on behalf of viewers. Sometimes when we buy this tie and dye and we wash it for the first time, it tends to seem as if the colors are falling off. Is that a bad sign for us to think we got a wrong a bad material?
Oh no. I'll put it in this way. It could be a bad sign in the sense that you're using the wrong detergent for it. Now, this is one thing that people don't know about tie and dye. Tie and dye is made of chemicals. You mix two or three like three chemicals, sometimes four chemicals to make it work. And sometimes when you use detergents that are so strong, it reacts with those chemicals, and then you see the colors falling. Then also it's also a good sign because there are some colors that don't look brighter. They tend to look brighter with every washing. There are some colors that they are so how would I put it? They're so strong that the more you wash, the more it looks finer. There are even some tie and dyes, things like alabere, the indigo dye. The more you wash, the more it's fine. It needs to wash to get beautiful. That's how it works.
That's amazing.
So it's not necessarily a bad thing.
Oh, I think for you that creates, people should always be putting instructions. That way, when someone is getting it, they know what they are buying and how they should go with it. But thank you so much, Hauwa Ishaq Ibrahim, for joining us to dissect, tie and dye as an art and a business. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. I'm so glad to be here.
Of course. And with that, of course, we have come to the end of the show, Daybreak Extra on Trust Television. If you, of course, want to dive into tie and dye, then definitely you've gotten a head start to go more and get your research. It's something that we definitely should be explored in Nigeria, considering we have all what it takes. Well, thank you so much for joining. For everyone who called in and shared their thoughts and messages, appreciate you, and for sticking around. We appreciate you. Of course, we'll still definitely want you to stick around. At the top of the hour, Adeni Ajishafe would bring you the sports weekend. I am Sumaya Abubakar. Do have a lovely weekend. Bye.